On October 12, 2025, the port believed it was untouchable. The defense network around Novorossiysk stood in layers and watched the sea with absolute confidence. North Korean forces had surrounded the harbor and stacked it with weapons and sensors. Radar-guided Panzer S-1 missile launchers ringed the approaches. AK-630 close-in air defense guns sat on mounts ready to spit up to 10,000 explosive rounds per minute. Orion drones waited on alert with KAB-20 precision bombs under their wings. And in the middle of it all, a stealth frigate kept watch. It carried 8 vertical launch tubes, loaded with Puka-3 ballistic missiles, each rated to strike targets more than 800 miles away. Crews drilled, radar spun, the harbor felt safe. Ukraine did not bring destroyers. It did not bring submarines. It brought something different. Q-400 Scythe. UAVs skimmed the water at only 50 feet, guided by terrain radar and pre-programmed maps. From the south, Mura V5 unmanned boats punched through 6-foot waves. 2 carried 700-pound warheads. The third was a decoy built to mimic a friendly patrol craft on radar. High above, a Bayraktar TB2 loitered at 27,000 feet. Through an encrypted Starlink link, it painted targets and stitched the whole picture together for the strike team. Hidden inside that familiar formation was a card never played before: a small US-backed platform. Faster, quieter, invisible to radar, driven by onboard AI and advanced inertial guidance. Not built for raw power, but for precision. This was its first combat deployment. It did not seek to smash the fortress. It aimed to unbolt it one hinge at a time. Could that secret weapon help Ukraine break Novorossiysk? At 4:30 a.m., the port lay still. On paper, it was a Russian-controlled logistics hub. In reality, it held North Korean assets packed tight: damaged corvettes, missile boats, radar trucks, and mobile command gear. This was where they hid, repaired, and planned the next strikes. They thought they were out of reach. They were wrong. From the west, 6 AQ-400 Scythes crept at about 90 miles per hour, still just 50 feet above the water, too low for long-range radar. From the south, 3 Mura V5 boats sliced toward the mouth of the harbor. 2 were alive. 1 was the decoy. Above them all, the TB2 tracked the prize, the North Korean stealth frigate with 8 Puka-3's vertical launch tubes, a $500 million asset, a threat, and a target. The hybrid ghost strike was about to begin, using American-made AI target processors and terrain-following radar to exploit every blind spot in the net. At 4:35 a.m., the first trap snapped shut. The operator sent the activation signal. 2 Scythes released bundles of chaff. Thousands of metallic fibers turned into huge false radar clouds. On Russian and North Korean screens, it looked like 2 giant drones had broken formation and were charging straight in. 4 other Scythes fell 30 feet. They hugged the water and slid behind the steep granite cliffs of the Krasnodar coastline. The Bayraktar TB2 kept feeding encrypted coordinates through Starlink. Its terrain-matching radar mapped the hidden Panzer S-1 launchers near the harbor. Inside the enemy command center, confusion took hold. The Castor 2E2 radar flagged the low-flying Scythes as biological clutterbirds pushed off course by the fog. The 96L6 target tracker read the Mura decoy boat at 25 miles per hour with a radar cross-section near 110 square feet, assuming it was a gunboat. The coastal battery fired 3 S-7E6 missiles. The decoy vanished in a 7,000-degree fireball. The aluminum hull atomized. A 20-foot plume of salt water and smoke climbed into the air. But that was never the real threat. The flash blinded the sensors for a moment. 1 Scythe caught shrapnel and came apart midair. The other surged forward. By 4:37 a.m., defenders had fired 12 missiles and killed only 1 real drone. Then the electronic wave hit. The Russian Kroskofor system unleashed a focused electromagnetic pulse with a 186-mile radius. It aimed to blind every drone at once. Ukrainian video feeds dissolved to static. Red letters flashed, signal lost. But the Scythe's American-made brains had already switched into inertial navigation. No GPS, no data link only, gyroscopes, and stored terrain. 1 drone veered off, homed on the emitter, and dove. At about 90 miles per hour, it rammed the radar truck carrying the array. The shaped charge exploded downward, cutting through the chassis and igniting the fuel cell. The truck vanished in a single orange fireball. The screens cleared. The TB2 reconnected, for Scythes remained. The defense system was wounded. The strike pressed on. Before we move to the final phase, picture something bigger. Imagine a North Korean ballistic missile submarine cruising deep and slow, carrying warheads that can level cities. Could it really challenge us naval power in a deep-sea fight? Who wins? Comment 1 if North Korea's underwater fleet is a serious challenger. Comment 2 if you believe U.S. carrier strike groups and attack subs still rule every layer of the ocean. Now, back to Novorossiysk, where the battle is about to tip. 4:38 a.m. Starlink was stable again. The electromagnetic fog lifted. The TB2's video turned sharp. Below, the air picture was chaos, hot trails crossing, radar echoes layering, false targets blooming. The remaining Scythes altered course at once. At that moment, 3 Orion Hunter drones lifted off from a coastal base. They were built to chase fast, small targets. Top speed near 120 miles per hour. Each carried CAB-20 laser-guided munitions. What Orion locked onto the heat bloom of a Mura V5 turning in the water against the cold sea? The signature was bright. Lock confirmed. A weapon dropped. The boat with a 700-pound warhead took a direct hit. The load detonated early. A column of fire and water shot 26 feet into the air. Metal rained down. Half the naval strike force died in a single blast. The operator in the bunker did not freeze. He ordered the last Mura V5 to slow to 18 miles per hour. It ducked into wave troughs and barely disturbed the surface. The 3 surviving Scythes went cold. Exhaust vented upward. Heat massed. Flight paths hugged the cliffs to break the infrared outline. Bayraktar TB2, steady at 27,000 feet, scanned again. It found the lead Orion circling. Coordinates went out. One Scythe peeled off, climbed slowly, and slid into Orion's blind zone from the rear. At 4:40 a.m., it struck. The explosion broke Orion in the air. Burning wreckage fell into the Black Sea. The other 2 Orions hesitated. Their feeds blinked. No visuals, no telemetry. The strike rolled forward. Only 2 Scythes and 1 Mura remained. They slipped past the outer ring. The flagship's AK-630 came alive. The deck gun roared. A river of 30mm shells tore the sky. 1 Scythe was caught mid-turn and ripped apart, carbon fiber and wires scattering like chaff. 2 attackers were left. The last Scythe flew a hard serpentine. Each swerve forced the gun to recalculate its aim. At the same time, the Mura V5 launched another cloud. Aluminum fibers blossomed on enemy radar. Ghost targets multiplied. The AK-630 fired wildly, but the warship was rocking 5 degrees in 6-foot swells and could not settle its turret. After 19 seconds of continuous fire, the gun ran dry. The final shell left the barrel. The CIWS spun down. Radar lost lock. At 4:43 a.m., the Bayraktar TB to put laser marks on 2 points, the fuel depot under the pier and the bank of vertical missile tubes on the deck. The last Scythe received final coordinates and dived. The warhead hit just beneath the pier. The shape-charged copper jet sliced through an inch of steel and tore into a fuel tank. Pressure spiked. Flames erupted. The first fireball rose 31 feet. Shockwaves rolled across the harbor. Windows shattered within 300 yards. Regional monitors registered a 3.4 magnitude tremor. The blast was only the start. Burning fuel flowed toward the missile deck. He'd warped the launch assembly. Guidance hardware for the 8 Pukacom-3 missiles failed. The flagship still floated, but its weapons were scrapped. Smoke blackened the port side. The sky over the harbor turned orange. The fortress stopped being a fortress. The numbers tell the rest. In 15 minutes, Ukraine dismantled a billion-dollar stronghold with less than $2 million of gear. No satellites were hit, no fighters scrambled. The job was done with plywood drones, smart software, and tight planning. By 4:45 a.m., flames still burned at Novorossiysk. Black smoke stood over the bay like a warning. The North Korean flagship was not sunk, but it was paralyzed, missile tubes scorched, launch systems melted. What had threatened cities and civilians now sat as dead weight by the pier. Inside the Ukrainian bunker, there was no cheering, only quiet. Operators stared at their screens, watching a burning pier, charred steel, and fuel spreading across the water. They knew what it meant. This was not only a tactical win, it was a message. Cheap drones and clever tactics can defeat expensive hardware, but another truth hangs behind the smoke. War always charges a price not just in money or metal. It steals time from families, places sirens over cities. It forces children to learn math under the sound of cruise missile alerts. This strike was brilliant. It should not become routine. It should not be scaled up. It should be a turning point. It's a call for talks. It should be the moment when the international community steps in before more ports burn. If you stand for peace, write peace. Show that strength is not measured by who destroys more, but by who dares to stop the cycle. If this breakdown helped you, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next in-depth battlefield analysis. See you on the next mission.